How many times have you had problems with sewage in your basement?
Just last year in the spring, probably about 3 to 5 times.
I've been here since October of 2002, or October of 2000, and this is the first time this has happened to me, but it's not the first time that it's happened to a lot of my neighbors.
I have lived here not quite 8 years, and it's happened at least 5 times.
When it rains hard, you know the drains out there is moving so fast from all the water going into it. So what happens is when the drains is going so fast, it don't have nowhere else to go. It backs up into my house.
Well, I've owned the gallery for the past 6 years, and this is the second occurrence of major raw sewage. And I'm talking a foot. In certain areas, this time it reached 20 inches of raw sewage coming in.
I moved here in '94, and when in '94, the first year, I had a flood in the basement, and then every year after that, I've been having floods.
We were shocked to learn we were getting sewage in the basement. We just thought it was stormwater.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
we went down there in the beginning when there was still water and everything, thinking that it was just stormwater until I called the MSD and they told me no. And that's when we discovered it had been sewage and rainwater.
Right after it happened, our house just reeked. I mean, you walked in, you're like, woo! What happened here? Yeah. Body in the basement?
In our front yard, at 8 o'clock that morning, I did take pictures of the manhole cover spewing, and I'm guessing it was probably about 6 inches high around the rim, sludge. There are bits of toilet paper and all kinds of things. Anything you can flush was in there, I'm sure. And that was coming out for a long while in our front yard, probably 15, 20 feet from our front door.
Been here 28 years, and every time we have a strong downpour, doesn't have to be as hard as this last one, our basement comes up. This time was 5.5 feet raw sewage over the washer, over the dryer. My Elvis picture was floating. I had an autographed bust of Elvis Presley, autographed. I got one of the red scarves too. Anyhow, the bust disintegrated. I have nothing. Nothing on that. This was out here. Washer and dryer were. Dryer was out here, the washer was tipped over. Here's how you can see the water line. I haven't got to yet. Here's the water line for the electric box.
The electrostatic air filter in my furnace, the power pack on that got zapped because the water got into my furnace. The water got into my dryer. The water got into the washing machine, into the water heater. It just so happened that my furnace was already up on blocks, otherwise that would have been gone.
One time we had a pretty good flood. I mean, it got about 3.5 feet deep in my basement one time. And we started counting up all our damage. We quit when it got up to about $12,000 or $13,000 because my homeowner's policy only covered $5,000.
I had an awful lot of damage this time, and even though I built everything so that it's totally up off the ground, unfortunately no one can anticipate that you're going to have 20 inches of water. So as a consequence, there was a lot of work in process that was damaged, a lot of my working materials from my frame shop were damaged, as well as a lot of irreplaceable fine art, because that's my business.
The problem is that in an older neighborhood like this, that the storm drain and the sewage are a combined system, so that when it rains really hard at one time, the storm drain can't handle it, it backs up into the sewer system, and then when both of them can't handle it, it has nowhere to go and it finds the a route of least resistance, which is through the pipes, through our basements, through the commodes, through the whatever.
We have a flood drill. Most people have a fire drill. All my children and my wife and I, we know what we're responsible for doing. Okay, one of the things is that we roll our carpet up and put it up on folding chairs. You could not see the backrest of the folding chairs. The water was that high. See our chairs? I put hangers up so we can hang the chairs up. This is a normal routine for us.
I would say it really escalated when we had this development put in across the street, and then there's a development further up creek off of Bonham Road. But I would say the sewer lines are not capable of handling more homes tapped in there.
Did you complain about this problem to MSD?
Yes.
And what did MSD tell you?
MSD told me that they would log the complaint into their files, and that was it.
I've called MSD about the problem probably more than 30 times.
And what did they tell you?
MSD has always been very nice. When I've called, they've always been very pleasant. They always said they realize there's a problem, they're working on the problem. The problem is they don't ever do anything to solve the problem.
Have you talked to MSD about this problem?
Yes.
And what did they tell you?
Well, originally they kept saying that it was not the sewer district's problem, that it was the stormwater people. It was their problem. So then you talk to them and they say it's the sewage people's problem. Nobody would ever accept responsibility for it. And then we actually had the Hamilton County engineer come out, and he said he was going to do something about it, and that never happened.
MSD told me that, first of all, I had trouble getting to the right people. I called MSD, and they said I had called the wrong person. They told me to call the engineers, and I called the engineers. Then they asked me to call the solicitor's office, and I called the solicitor's office to file a complaint. And then I finally got a hold of people at MSD, and this was on the 6th of May. She told me that they had been aware that something happened in Hyde Park, and she asked me why I didn't call right when it happened. The event happened on the 10th, and I called on the 6th. And I said, because I didn't know that I could call MSD on this. And she said I should have called right then and right there, because they would be able to send a crew right away to catch the source of the problem. But unfortunately, even if I had called on the Saturday afternoon that I came in, it had already happened. I was sleeping when it happened.
It has risen all the way up to here.
Uh-huh.
So that's where they had cleaned the wall off.
I see.
And now you can tell recently
that was the recent one.
Water, okay. And you can see back here where the drain just, I left it, I didn't touch anything. Where it backed up. And this is what I get. And sometimes I get BM and everything else.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. It smells terrible.
Yeah, it does smell terrible.
Well, then the water comes up through the sewers. It goes down through the sewers. So then we have to wade through the water, the muck, because of the combination sewer, and unclog those drains so the water goes back down again.
MSD has never said that we can file suit to reimburse us for any of the damages caused by this. That all they ever say was turn it into your insurance company.
I am aware that I could file a claim against MSD for damages. Someone from MSD did give me the card for the city solicitor, and I did write the city solicitor a letter in 2001 asking for payment of the damages in my basement, and I was told that the city is not responsible for it because backup of sewage is an act of God.
This is the first time in all of these that anyone has given us a damage claim to submit to the city of Cincinnati, the city solicitor. They've given us this cleanup policy before. It doesn't tell you a whole lot.
They gave me a one-page sheet telling me how to clean up, 10 parts water to 1 part bleach and spray everything down. And That's pretty much the only guideline the MSD gave me in cleaning up the raw sewage in my basement.
No, MSD never gave me any kind of instructions as to what to do with regard to raw sewage, no guidelines, nothing.
From what I understand, when you're dealing with, you know, sewage and dirty water and stuff like that, it's not anything you can just let dry up because of the chances of all kind of bacteria building up down there, and I don't want to take any chances of my children, you know, getting some kind of disease.
No one told me anything. I had just recently had surgery less than a month previous to that. I had open incisions on both legs, and since I'm a nurse, I'm well aware of the precautions, but no one from MSD has ever shown any interest in the fact that sewage could cause any kind of disease problems or be unsafe.
Did MSD give you any precautions to take when cleaning up raw sewage or warn you of the diseases that could be carried in raw sewage?
No. As a matter of fact, they weren't even saying anything about raw sewage or...
They came by and left a flyer on the door that said that it was hazardous and that we were to use protective clothing, and then also any kind of clothing that was fibrous that was exposed, that it should be thrown out, basically.
We thought we had the problem mitigated. We've put in another sump pump. We've put in a new gate valve because it broke probably back in, I think it was the 95 flood. It actually broke the gate valve that was in the down within our basement floor. The plumber said it was so strong it just snapped it. We've put in glass block windows, we've made sure gutters are clean and all sorts of things. But when MSD is pumping a problem onto our property, anything we pump out from a sump pump is just pumping back into the property. It's a vicious circle at that point.
They've come out quite a few times. They've put smoke in my drains, they put dye, flushed it down my toilets, they've checked all my downflows. They've told me that none of the problems are due. I'm completely in compliance with all the laws. There's nothing that I do, nothing that happens in my yard that causes the problem, nothing in my house. And that I am the only one in the entire neighborhood who has this problem. Nobody else has the problem but me, which I really find very hard to believe.
I left flyers on all the houses in the neighborhood, and a total of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, probably about 7 households contacted me and said that they had also had problems with sewage coming up in their basement.
This entire building, I can tell you, had the same issue, and I know that many of my neighbors, the residential neighbors on Edwards, have come down and have expressed their sympathy for me because the same thing happened to them. And I also know that some of the businesses a little further up towards Erie on Edwards have also had backup and flooding.
I think, it's a terrible health hazard, and it's a health hazard for many people, for the backup that goes into the creeks, and kids play in the creeks, kids play in Mill Creek over here. I just think it's a terrible problem, and I don't think, as the letter stated, that MSD should be allowed to store their backup sewer water in my basement.
There is raw sewage in my front yard, and MSD deems it our responsibility to clean that up. If I walk my dog and he does his business in someone's yard, I would get fined if I didn't clean that up. And yet MSD is allowing their material, for lack of a better word, to sit on my property and telling me I have to clean it up with bleach in my front yard.
And I was mad when I found out that I had received their standard line. I naively bought it. I went, yeah, okay, water's flowing fine. What do I know about a sewer? And I think a lot of times education is a good way to get people out. The more people that know, the less places the MSD can hide.
All I can say is there needs to be a lot more of us to step up to the plate and talk about these problems. Well, like you said, I don't like my basement being used as a holding tank. I don't think that we should have to buy out, I don't know how many families, just so they can put a hole in the ground and ruin a neighborhood. Fix the problem. Fix the sewer lines. Fix the storm drain. Fix the problem. Putting a Band-Aid on it isn't going to fix it.
The Sierra Club wants to see reinvestment in our age-old sewer system. And we're talking about $1.5 to $3 billion worth of sewer improvements. This is something that's going to take a long time. Obviously, this is going to be the next big project for Hamilton County. The Sierra Club recently did a study actually to find out whether or not this would be affordable for Hamilton County residents. And according to the EPA guidelines, sewer rates cannot exceed 2% of the median income. Currently, we are functioning at 0.5%. And if we were to gradually raise sewer rates over the next 20 years to reinvest in the sewers with capital improvement projects, probably $1.5 to $3 billion worth of capital improvement projects, we would never reach that 2% level. And therefore making it very affordable for Hamilton County residents. This is something that we want to see done. This is something that we need to see done. We cannot keep having raw sewage backups into residents' basements. We cannot keep having raw sewage being dumped into our rivers and creeks and streams. It is unhealthy and it violates the law.